It's because there's so many times we have our loved ones being slain due to senseless gun violence. But this one here kind of hit home, particularly during that Black Lives Matter when it seemed like other people's lives didn't matter. So we took it upon ourselves to address this. And I want to ask you, tell us a little bit about your brother and your history with your brother and what he meant to you growing up.
Yes, thank you. I just want to thank you again, Melvin, for having me.
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
a pleasure meeting you. My brother, I brought a picture with me too, Melvin, so I could bring, he's not just a name. That's my brother. That was my only brother, Mark Biz Williams. That was my heart. So growing up, he was always my protector. He didn't have a mean bone in his body. And he was a father figure to my son. And what I need people to understand is when we kill each other with this black on black crime, you're not just affecting the person that you killed, you're affecting the family. And the bottom line is brothers shouldn't be killing brothers, for senseless. My brother was killed, Melvin, over his cell phone and over a couple dollars he had in his pocket.
Yes. And so many times we hear about it and we have no redress or nothing like that. Your brother, they had got a report that shots were fired actually the night that it happened. What was it? I think it was 11 something that they heard and got a report that shots was fired.
They heard my brother was shot between 10 and 11 o'clock at night on a hot July 31st night in summer. And they heard shots were fired. The police said they came out, but I know they didn't because my brother was killed on a busy street. And he was executed one time in his head, and he laid outside to die like a dog for 16 hours. Now that's from 10 o'clock at night, Mel, between 10 and 11, from whenever the shots were supposed to be fired until the next day. His body wasn't discovered until a construction worker was driving down the street and saw my brother's body laying in the grass in front of somebody's house around 11 o'clock the next day. Now that's just foul for our people to walk past a dead body and don't even have the decency to call the police or ambulance. We're starting to be savages. People were taking cell phone pictures of my brother. I mean, how far can you go?
Taking cell phone pictures of your brother while he lay deceased, as opposed to calling for help or praying for him. They'd rather go and show pictures, and that's not right. But speaking of that, that comes to the form of people aiding and abetting by overlooking crimes that occurred or where they turn the other cheek. What is your opinion about those that just go and don't report or don't, you have a right. Couldn't nobody tell my mother what she can do. We have to start really looking at this word snitching and what it really means when it comes to that. So we had heard that you found out through social media or on the news, or were you called or notified? How did you find out about your brother's murder?
Right. Normally, you know how when you watch television, you normally get a knock at the door. No, I found out from the news that my brother was murdered, and that was very disheartening. The Pittsburgh Homicide Division claimed they were too busy. How are you too busy to notify a family member that their loved one has been murdered? I had to find out from the news that my brother was killed. That's just wrong. And then for people to go around and know what happened and stick to this no code of snitching. You know what I mean? We got the game all twisted when we want to say no snitching, snitches get stitches, I'm not getting involved. I have a $30,000 reward out there for the information and conviction on who all was involved in my brother's murder. We pretty know a lot of the players, but we have a reward. But people rather say it's not my business. I don't want to snitch. I'm not getting involved. You know, I mean, this is crazy. All this black on black crime. But if your mother was shot, you'd be the first one on the news pleading to Jesus, asking for some help. So why do we have this code of no snitching in our community? You want to do the crime, but then you're too coward to have somebody tell. And then the parents, the people that are remaining silent, you're just as guilty as the person that pulled that trigger. Because as long as you're keeping silent about somebody committing a homicide, you're just as guilty as the person that pulled that trigger. And if you're harboring and evading somebody, you're just as guilty, man. That's the bottom line. Murder's murder. And if you know about a crime, you're just as guilty. So we need to break that street code of snitching, and you need to put your place in somebody else's position, man. An innocent man was gunned down, shot in the back of his head. Wouldn't you want justice? And you can call Crime Stoppers on the down low. So there's no excuse, Melvin. There's so many ways where you can call the police and remain anonymous.
So you're looking for closure as any parent would when their loved one is lost due to senseless gun violence. And when you talk to the law enforcement, how did the investigation go? Did they investigate, or did they just ho-hum it? Or what happened with the law enforcement and their investigations? What did they actually do to help support you in your quest for justice?
Basically, law enforcement did not help me whatsoever. The next day I was given, the streets talk. So I was given a few names, certain individuals that were involved in my brother's case. I gave those names to the police, and they act like I was a criminal. Oh, you got to give me, more information. Where are you coming up with those names? Like I had to give them proof. And I told them, they stole my brother's cell phone. And I was talking to one of the young men that stole my brother's cell phone. So the first thing you need to do is get my brother's cell phone records. And they didn't even do that.
And this happened July 31st, 2014.
2014.
So that's been going on 4 years and some change now. And what's the progress on it now as far as justice for Mark Williams?
Basically, the case is still open. There was one young man that's down at the county jail right now. He was caught in possession with my brother's driver's license, cell, wallet, and some other personal belongings when he was murdered. So, it is what it is, but the bottom line is it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. Even though this individual is in possession of my brother's wallet, driver's license, and keys and personal effects, they're still trying to tell me we need to actually find the actual gun.
Now, Mark, was he your younger brother or older?
Older brother. He was a personal fitness trainer. He helped the community. If he had a dime, he would give you his last dime. He helped so many people in the community. He was loved by many and all. There is not one person I can say anything bad about Mark Biz Williams. And that's why we have the support that we have throughout the world and the community about getting justice. Because this is one brother that wasn't out robbing, wasn't out killing people, didn't have a gun in his possession, but somebody gunned him down for no reason. And for people to see what happened and not say anything, that's a travesty to all. Because once something happens to your family, then you're going to want somebody to speak up too.
Now, you had a son, Kevin, who's sitting over here. Hey, Kev. What was your brother as a mentor to your son? What was his relationship with your brother, and what is he missing?
Well, he's missing a father figure. People thought that my son was his son. My brother didn't have any children, so Kevin was his son. So he's missing a father figure. He's missing having to be able to pick up the phone whenever he has a question, to call his uncle at any given time for guidance. You know, a young man growing up in this world needs two parents, and his uncle was there every step of the way. This is his graduation picture when he graduated from high school. His uncle was there. We were a family, you know. That's the bottom line. You saw me, you saw Biz, and you saw Kevin. And everybody thought Kevin was his son. And so he's missing his father. And that's the bottom line. You took that young man's father away.
I did some research, and that Pittsburgh area, particularly up in there, I think they had 107 murders this year so far, which is a high rate. And it looked like, I think 62% of them were black men that were slain due to senseless gun violence or gun violence up in that East Coast area of Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And you grew up there.
Right, grew up there, but the figures are much higher. You are correct. We're over 100 homicides, and within that area where my brother was murdered, 98% are black on black homicide. They want to try to say it's the man, it's the system. They're taking organs. Well, they didn't take my brother's organs. My brother wasn't killed by the police or the system or by the invisible man. You know, they always want to say, well, it's the man, it's the system. No, it's your sons that's out here killing people.
Mm-hmm. So, tell us, it really, I did this because it's so many times we hear a mother's howl, a daughter, and a lot of times these issues don't be addressed. They be thrown in the back. And here on Hidden Corners, we want to give everybody a chance to speak and give them support. But how was it changed from then to when you grew up in Pittsburgh? You grew up in what kind of community was it when you was growing up to where it changed to where the violence has permeated that city over the years? What changed?
Man, Melvin, the main thing that changed is the love. You know, back when I grew up, you know, kids were kids, you know. If there was a disagreement, you know, we would settle it. You know, y'all might fight or tussle, and then the next day, you're back at the basketball court or whatever, friends again. You know, everybody, there wasn't this hatred mentality. There wasn't this kill or be killed mentality. We weren't carrying guns back then. You know, these kids have cell phones that they can't afford. They're walking around with tennis shoes that they can't afford. They're not working. You know, back in my day, we all got along. And if you had a beef with somebody, like I said, man, you know, y'all talked about it, or, you know, people fought with their fists, and then it was over with. But there was none of this killing. I mean, we're losing our youth at an enormous rate. And if something doesn't happen, man, our youth are going to be extinct, especially the black male. Our youth are getting killed at least 10 to 20 a day from state to state. And Melvin, you can vouch for this. They may not hear about it on the news, because if they put all these homicides on the news, that's going to take up all the news. And since it's black on black crime, it doesn't make the news. It only makes the news if the police kills a brother. But the only time we seem to want to speak about it is if the police kills a black man. But we're killing each other 20 times more than the cops, and y'all remain silent. But soon when the cops kill somebody, everybody and their mother say they claim they saw what happened. Mm-hmm. But a baby gets killed right in your neighborhood. My brother got killed in front of a row of townhouses with 100 windows, and everybody want to play deaf and dumb. So, you know, we can blame the police, but we can only blame the police so far. I can only blame the Pittsburgh Homicide Division so far. Because if they go knock on people's doors, Melvin, and they're not willing to give information, and they say, well, I wasn't home, or I don't know anything, or they don't answer the door, how are they going to solve these homicides if the community wants to keep that ignorant mindset of I'm not getting involved, it's not my business?
Well, you know, one of the problems is within the inner cities, these pockets of poverty, as ex-President Obama used to call it, these pockets of poverty during election year, which he's supposed to have addressed, and other political, the black political machine. They were saying how they're going to address the inner cities for political gain, but at the end of the day, it's nothing changed. You know, if this was occurring in Beverly Hills, the Hamptons, any of this, they would get redressed, but not only would they get redressed, you would be put in a witness protection program, given new ID, and this and that. So we have to start looking at our local elected officials within that community, to whereas we need to have some type of redress to where a lot of times these people that were victims of a crime, witnessed a crime, seen a crime, they get sent right back to the crime. So they're reluctant to come forward. I know nobody couldn't tell my mother what she couldn't say, because, you know, it's rules to this game. Unwritten rules, and it's rules. And the first rule is don't get in something that you can't, don't go outside the guidelines to where citizens are involved. If you signed up for this, that's what you got coming, if that's what it so be. But a lot of times we have innocent people that are getting slain consistently, like we're in the wild, wild west. Like my grandmother was raped at 70 years old. No recourse. My cousin was killed at age 19, shot in the back of the head. No redress. So this is not nothing new. We know what the problem is, but we want to know what the solution is. What can we do to where the youths of the day have a chance to grow up and be a respectable, responsible citizen, not only in the inner cities, but all across America. Unless we have a voice at the table that's going to continue, I think we have to address this where we have to do it on our own, because who really cares? You know, I just sit and come off the top of the head, but your case, I know you've been fighting hard since 2014.
And I've basically, you know, by me doing my own campaign and by posting on Facebook, that's where I've been getting most of my information. It's like nobody's going to fight for you but you. And that's the bottom line. And I'm trying to bring awareness that, hey, my brother today, your baby or your son or your mother or your sister tomorrow. Because every day I'm showing pictures of people, young people getting murdered. And those are just a quarter that come through, the ones that I share, Melvin.
Let's talk about your page, Justice for Mark Beers Williams. And for a lot of y'all, go to her page, Justice for Mark Beers Williams, where for the last, that I know of, 2-3 years, you post homicide victims across the nation, where every day they're sitting across and they're being screened on yours. And it seems to be where the younger and younger people are getting killed, particularly women, where they're getting killed at 18, 19. I noticed very beautiful women on your page. Can you tell them a little bit about your page and what started you to doing that?
Yes. Every day I'm sharing on my page, Tamara Mark Biz Williams page, and on the Justice for Mark Williams page, pictures of babies, as Melvin said, 16, 17-year-old young girls that are getting caught up, getting shot. This is just horrendous. And I used to just post for my brother, but then I start seeing that, you know what? This is much more bigger, you know. Now Biz is all of our babies impacted from violence from A to Z, you know. And when I share these pictures, everyone can say rest in peace, but nobody is outraged that their killers are still on the street. Everybody that I show on my page, Melvin, 99.9% of them have been killed by the hands of another black person, and the killer is still on the streets. And I share the pictures. Sometimes the parents notify me and say, can you please share my loved one? Or I want to share and let us know what we're doing to us.
Now, how do the parents tell you that they're black if they're not caught? How does one assume that it was black? Or the streets talk to these people, or how you get your information to where the parents call you and ask you to do it, and they have an idea pretty much what happened with their child? Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Most of the times, Mel, I'll get the information before the news even gets it. And just like you know, if there was a shooting, 99% of the time the family, we're going to know who's involved. You understand what I'm saying? So they know who's involved, but they're scared to throw that name out there as well. Or silence. Silence is a killer. You know, so they know who killed their child too. Most of them know who killed their child. They tell me they see them walking down the street every day, living their life. And normally what happens is they just wait, Melvin, and what happens is street justice. And if you guys don't know what street justice is, it's called you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You point a trigger at a brother, one's pointing back at you. So if somebody knows that you killed little Trey, and they know that David and his crew was involved, then they may wait a year, 6 months, till everything died down. And, you know, nobody's focusing on the case. And then all of a sudden, you hear that David got killed, his sister got killed, then that's called street justice.
Now, I heard, I'm not sure, so maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't one of the suspects in this case end up murdered?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And this individual, their name was given to me the next day after my brother was murdered. They said he was the trigger man. There were 5 people involved, but they gave me this young man's name, and you know, I'm not gonna throw that name out there. But make a long story short, I gave that name to the detectives. They didn't want to do anything. And I'm like, how can I make up this name when the streets are giving me this name and you all know these people? But make a long story short, one of the trigger men that were involved in my brother's homicide, he met his fate about several weeks ago. He shot my brother, so they say, in the head, and he was shot the same way Biz was shot, but he was shot 3 times in the head. So, you know, I don't promote murder, but what I'm saying is, if you guys would have turned that young man in and sent his butt to jail versus the streets getting him, you know, he was out there robbing people. He was out there killing people. He probably killed more people than my brother. So what goes around comes around. But you just got another young man killed. I'm not promoting murder, but if you would have told who he was from jump when we were trying to, and if detectives would have picked him up and worked on the case like they should have properly, and went through my brother's phone and saw he was using my brother's cell phone and all that information, everything would have came back to a lot of people that are still on the streets And like I said, man, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So that's what happens when you keep quiet. People do get killed.
Also, during this time, since that murder occurred of your brother, you received a lot of death threats for the things that you do. Tell us, how did that feel? What was your feeling on that? I mean, you got a child over here, you're a single parent, you're living on your own. What did you do for that? What did they give you any support in that?
I was getting death threats. People tell me they're going to kill me. People tell me they have a bullet waiting on me. Calling me, telling me they're going to kill me. Some messages I gave to the police, you know, they didn't act on them. Well, we need more information. We need you to fax us this, fax us that. But the bottom line is to threaten somebody's sister that's out here fighting for justice. All I'm doing is speaking up. I'm not bringing up nobody's name. All I want to know is who killed my brother. But you want to give me a death threat and tell me you're going to kill me because I'm speaking up. That's my right to speak up. But you're telling me you're going to kill me? You know, so I had to change some things around, Melvin. I had to change my lifestyle around. You know, I can't go freely the way I want to go freely anymore. You know?
So this murder has not only affected you mentally, it has affected you in your whole life, period, to where you never know. You always got to look over your shoulder.
I'm always looking over my shoulder. I never even handled a gun. You know, I had to purchase me a 9mm.
I hope you got it with you today.
To protect myself.
Go ahead.
You know, I had to protect myself, but it's a shame though. You know, I'm being treated like I'm the criminal. I gotta keep on running. I gotta keep on looking over my shoulder to the right and to the left. And that shouldn't be right. And when you tell the police that people are threatening you, they should act on that. If I give you a phone number, somebody called me and said they're going to do a 187 on me, then that's all you need to know. That's all I know.
You know, if this, like we said, if this was happening in a white community, particularly in LA, which has been going on since 1972-69, senseless gun violence, and it hasn't ended yet. But it's amazing how a murder could say happen in Chuck, Egypt, and a police will commit a murder against a black, and every NAACP, every black politician, every organization will jump up and don't even know that person. Then you turn around and ask them to name a murder or something that happened in their community, and they clueless. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times that's what Hidden Corners is not so much, it's a chance for those whose voices are silenced by the media, whose voices or cases aren't heard, real inner city news before it's news, because a lot of times we are the news before the news get it. And you know, we'll sit up here and they'll create shows like when a white do a murder, it's called I Almost Got Away With It, or Snaps. But when a black committed murder, it's 48 hours and murder. So a lot of times propaganda has a lot to do with dictating what's going on in these communities, to where the inner city newspaper really are biased. You have to have a fair system of reporting to where there's no color lines. You have to be fair, equal. You can't be straddling the fence, and that's what we try to do here. We're not condoning senseless gun violence. We're not downgrading no organizations. Everybody got a hand, but if we all come together, I think for me, my number one concern ain't no police other than putting handcuffs on me. That's the only thing I'm worried about them. But when it comes to these streets, particularly in these inner cities, I'm worried about that kid with that backpack. I'm worried about that kid that's walking up to me with his hands in his pocket. I'm worried about anything around me when it should be, blacks as a whole, we don't have no organization that you can name that would go kill another race on purpose. But every race, from the KKK to the Mexican Mafia to the Aryan Brotherhoods to the whatever. They all have organizations that go get funding to basically violators of black civil rights. So these are some of the issues we're trying to address. We're here with Tamara Beers Williams and her support. Hey, Cheryl. Hey, Judas Justin. Y'all share this, man. As we continue on, we're in the first 30 minutes. We're going to continue a little bit further. So after the murder, you relocated.
Yes, I did. Relocated, because I was tired of getting death threats. And, I don't want to have to go to jail for, putting some steel on somebody, because I don't have no problem firing back. You understand what I'm saying? But that's not me. I like to live a peaceful lifestyle. I was living a peaceful lifestyle before my brother was murdered, and I want to continue living a peaceful lifestyle, but I will not be silent, and I will continue speaking out about the people that killed my brother and about all this senseless black on black crime that's happening all throughout the United States.
I'd like to talk a little bit about Kevin, your son. I met the young man. He's an academic scholar. A lot of times we see him with baggy pants, braided hair, an image of which is only a small section of the blacks. We have a lot of black men and women that are doing excellent things, but you won't hear about that. So tell us a little bit about your son and how he has continued in the spirit and the legacy of your brother to be the man that your brother was and to make y'all proud.
Yes, he has continued on for my brother's legacy. My son had started college not even 2 weeks, and he got a call saying that his uncle was murdered. And, most young people would have gave up. Right after the funeral, he went right back to college. And, he's graduated from college. He's got his degree. And the sky's the limit. And I'm so proud that he's doing what his uncle wanted him to do and I wanted him to do, which was keep going as high as you can go and don't let anybody slow you down. And that's what he's done. And
academically, he's been around the world.
Yeah, he has been around the world. Wish I could flip the camera on him. He's over there. He could slide over here and tell y'all.
What's going on?
Tell him a little bit about you and your relationship, young man.
So my uncle, that was my role model. Father figure to me, all of that. And like my mom said, I got the call, but I remember two things that my uncle always told me. He said, stay on point and stay sucker free. And so those words stuck in my mind. And, in school, everything I said, I'm just going to keep going, keep moving forward, not let anything hold me back. My uncle, he was sure to tell me, everybody's not your friend. Everybody's not your friend, nephew. So watch who you hang out with, watch who you associate with. And I still live that to this day. I don't have too many people, that I'm associating with all the time. Strictly just, focused on myself, focused on business, and trying to help others and show, young brothers across the country and across the world that there are many ways to be successful and to change the situation. Typically people want to just think that, young black men are just playing basketball or, rapping, which is great. I used to rap myself. But those are not the only ways, and there are plenty young black males out there that are doing great jobs. And so I try to go around. I travel to different countries, different schools, speak in different places, and encouraging young men, young women to continue to move forward. Let nothing hold you back. Don't let society dictate your reality, and enjoy each and every day, because you never know when it can be your last. You never know when a family member can leave your side. So, take a moment to enjoy the good things that you have in life, roof over your head, food, whatever it may be. And also know that everything in this world is temporary. Money, car, clothes, all that's temporary, you know, but your soul, that lives on forever. So it's justice for Mark Biz all day long. I'm gonna continue to do my thing, continue to support my mom, supporting people all around the world who are trying to change lives and better themselves. And don't think wherever you're at right now in life that's the only place. You know, no matter what your situation's looking like. We've been homeless, all type of things. But you keep moving forward, keep having faith, it'll be all good. Justice for Biz.
Ah, that's a nice young man. Yeah, ain't he a nice kid?
That's a representation of his uncle. And, you know, this is what I'm talking about. You know, when you kill somebody, man, you just don't kill that person. You took a big chunk from my son, man. You took a big chunk from me, man. My heart will never be the same again, you know? That was my only brother. That's it. That was my only brother. And there was no need for that. There was no need to shoot my brother in the head. None. My brother, a couple years before that, he had won a lawsuit, Mel, for this company that he was working for. Over $200,000. You think he spent it on himself? No. He was like Santa Claus. Whoever needed something in the neighborhood, he had you. If your mom needed her roof fixed, he got her roof fixed. If somebody needed some shoes for their child, he got them some shoes, some furniture. But all these people, when it's time to say what happened to Biz, oh, I don't want to get involved. But Biz was lacing everybody up. He was the best friend, uncle, everybody.
So where is it now? What's going on with the investigation in your quest for justice for Biz? Where's it standing at now? What's going on with the case?
Well, basically, I have to make the case because, you know, I just have to keep it 100, Melvin. The Pittsburgh Homicide Division, the detectives on my brother's case are very lazy. So they don't like to return phone calls. So, you know.
And you know, a lot of times I deal with a lot of homicide family members quite a bit. And usually it seems like after 2 months or so, the police just ignore you, don't call back, won't call. They'll sit up and publicize it to get the publicity. Then once that die down, the funeral over with, the buzz is gone, and then when it's only you and them, they have nothing to say. They'll go on to the next one. And I just think that's not right, to where I know it's a lot of homicides across this nation, but if they short of staff, maybe they need to hire more, mm-hmm. or do something to help increase the investigation. But also, we have to police ourselves.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't look like nobody really cares about us in these inner cities, in these pockets of poverty, to where everybody's profiting off of these homicides, to where they'll go get grants to start an intervention and prevention, where you'll have a pro football player that ain't never been on the streets, ain't never did nothing, but he gonna tell you about murder in the streets. So a lot of times these false prophets for profits need to be checked. So after you move from there and you went to another location, now you are down here, it's 18 going on 2019. How are you feeling now?
I'm still not satisfied. I'll never be satisfied until each and every one is behind bars. So that is my quest for justice. So I will be doing justice for Biz like I always do, all day, every day, until each and every one is behind bars, or until, you know, whatever happens, happens. Like I said, you know, it's better for you to turn people in than to let them get killed. But I'm going to keep on promoting that my brother was murdered, and that his homicide is still investigated, and that he's not going to be another statistic, because his life mattered.
And all lives matter.
All
Not just
lives.
black lives
All
matter.
lives matter.
All lives matter, particularly when it's an innocent person, because there is no closure. It's never no forgetting when you lost a loved one. I know my auntie, bless her heart, my mama, she's still alive, so thank God for that. But my mother always told me that my auntie never got over that.
Yeah, you never get
She
over
never
it.
got over
You
that.
just move on. You know, that void is always going to be there. You know, the holidays came and gone. His birthday was in November. So you never get over it. You just ask God just to give you strength every day, just to keep moving on. And, you know, that's all you can do. And pray, you know. That's all you can do is leave it in the hands of the Lord. Because the bottom line is, Melvin, is this. God is justice. So if we don't get justice on earth, trust and believe. God has the final say. So you shed a man's blood, blood will be shed back on you. All killers, thou shalt not kill. You will be going to the eternal hellfire. And that's what I believe. So I have to stick to my faith and what I was grown up to believe. And so I know that if I don't get man's justice, I'm not worried about man's justice. God has the final say.
Oh, hey, Eric. I'm just looking at Eric Hatchett and looking at some of these call in. What's up, bro? We going down here. Y'all share this. How long we been on now?
Appreciate everybody's love and support
43 minutes.
and coming out and listening.
Well, we're going to end this for now, but we're going to let you say a few words of where your page, Facebook, and give them the information where they can look up you up on social media, and other people out there that want to join in the cause. You got Justice for Mark Biz Williams and others around the nation, because I see Facebook pages, Instagrams, all forms of social media, whether it be audio, video, or print, where a lot of times this type of senseless gun violence is being permeated across the country, but it's being neglected by mass media and those that are in position to bring the word out. So we try to, like I say, on Hidden Corners, give not only the suspects, the victims, we're both. We're just here to where we're no bias. We just want other people's voices to be heard. It's quite a few of us on this page that lost loved ones. Michael Liggins, you was not a victim, but you've been involved in this, where we had plenty of guys who lost loved ones on this page, particularly my page, where their mother has gotten a call or the father gotten a call. And, you know, in 1972, at the age of 14, I witnessed a murder after 4 dudes, and y'all know what I'm talking about. 1972. 4 of them was in the room. I told them they probably gonna kill y'all, but I'm gonna walk y'all out because I know you. 3 of them left. 1 of them stayed. He got killed 5 minutes later. But this before the crime scenes were fashionable. This is when it only was the tape and apparent. But I never forgot that woman's howl. Wasn't a cry. This was a howl. I never forgot that. But I've heard it many a times. Many a times. So when you take somebody's life, you better make sure it's justified. And usually the only thing that justifies taking somebody's life, because I believe in a fair bet. If you put $100 up, you ain't gonna come, I'm gonna put 100 up and you gonna put 100 up. So in other words, if somebody's not threatening your life, you don't have the right to take their life. It's just simple as that. So we have to start getting back to the roots. They say it takes a village to raise a child. I think it takes a community. But the first thing is we have to open up a dialogue to even create something to where we can come to some type of understanding. And that's what we do on here on Hidden Corners. This show will be rebroadcast on radiojustice.org, Community News Weekly, KPFK and other forms, or what you call them, and my phone just went off. So we'll go from here. You want to tell them a little bit about where they can go and contact you at?
Yes, definitely. They can contact me. And again, if there's any bounty hunters out there, I have a lot of bounty hunters out there on my page. That $30,000 is still good. You can contact me at 214-395-4876. You can reach me on Facebook under Tamara. And I took on my brother's name to make it easy. Tamara Mark Biz Williams. Tamara Mark Mark Biz Bizz Williams. And hey man, let's stop the violence. Let's show more love instead of hate. You know, and like Melvin said, when you take a life, it affects us, man. When my brother was murdered, I had a heart attack. You could go on my page, scroll, you'll see picture. I had a heart attack when I got the news.
I think when you was in the hospital?
And I'd already had a heart condition to begin with. I have a heart condition to begin with anyway. And to get that type of news and to see it on the news, and then to have my son call me from Texas to verify that he was killed, it just took me over. Then I had to go identify my brother's body, and they couldn't even show me my brother's body because of the way they shot him in his head. They came out and showed me some pictures. So that was the worst day of my life, man. So murder's wrong, period.
So it only was you and your brother?
That was it, man. So now it's just me.
And his bloodline, and that's another thing we have to remember. We're killing bloodlines. If he didn't have no children, she didn't have no child, they bloodline in.
That's it.
So remember that. You can take somebody's bloodline to where they whole history gone with one squeeze of the trigger. And it doesn't take much to pull a trigger. Really, it doesn't. It take a man to not pull that trigger. It really does. Trust me on that. So we're going to end this on Hidden Corners. We're going to pray for her blessings and grace and tranquility and good health. I'm going to take on the role of mentoring him, which when he came to California, I told her, I called you and told you a few things to tell him because of the landscape out there. A lot of times cats will come there and like for instance the hats.
Oh yeah, Melvin told me about the hats.
He come with the T hat on. Even though he's from Texas, that's a whole different ball game down there in LA. So I laced her on some couple of things because we don't want nobody to go through what other people go through. Don't nobody want to be heartbroken and just, you know, I just seen it all. I just seen it all. I'm sick of it all. I stand tall through it all. I put my life on it because I believe in there's a better way. And I've been in this game since I was 13. That's 48 years now, seeing senseless gun violence to where we're at an age now, this 2019, not 1819, to where we ought to be able to be respectable, particularly when we're in our own communities where we really have nowhere to go. If we could, we would leave. But because our social and economical conditions, we're stuck where we're at. So why not try to make it a better place to where at least I can tell who my enemy is. But when we're wearing the same camouflage, and that's this black skin, I can't tell the difference than friend, family, or foe. So with that being said, this is the end of this show. Tune in next week for the next Melvin Farmer's Hidden Corner special. I'll be working along with Mark Biz, Tamara, and working on justice for Mark Biz and giving more information. Y'all give this woman support and support all the women and men that have lost loved ones, not only if they black, white, brown, it don't matter. It don't matter. Let's give some support and try to clean up our own backyard before we call other people's backyards dirty. And we out.
Deuces.